Jim, Joyce, we're so close and yet so far. We're what? I don't know, probably like 5 blocks away from each other.
Yeah, if and
If
I think this is our St. Patrick's Day celebration podcast, isn't it? Officially.
wait, there's at least something green in here. And you saved me yesterday by bringing me awesome Health Beacon green socks, so thank you.
Totally,
Um,
totally.
and I have to say, it's been now 2 weeks, and we haven't had this, and because I think both of us are on the road, and
Right.
it's craziness, right? In a positive way. But I've missed you, man. I know we saw each other yesterday finally in real life too.
Great job, great job. So we're at the American Pharmacists Association panel. You did an expert navigation of top digital healthcare companies.
Yeah, we got to meet Yuna. She's awesome. I'll tag her in here. Dr. Dave was on with us, and let's see if we can get from APHA the video, because that was kind of our, the shot of digital health therapy on stage a bit. So let's see.
Right.
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 Risa pulled together an amazing gathering and event, so that was fun. And my first time in San Antonio, which the
Oh, really?
Riverwalk. Yeah, I don't know if you've been here before.
Yeah, I've been here years
Okay.
ago, but I haven't properly seen it other than just a few post-event celebrations last night on the Riverwalk. That's about it. That's about it.
I'm impressed. I'm impressed. You seem peppy and up and running. So
But right, someone has to.
lastly, it is Friday, not a Wednesday. So don't be surprised, our viewers and listeners, that we're doing this on a Friday. Again, we couldn't pull it off on Wednesday travel wise. But expect the unexpected from these two characters here.
100%, 100%.
All right. On this note, maybe you should do a little intro as I let her in.
Yeah,
I'm letting Maggie in.
I have to say, I am so excited for this podcast because I only know Maggie by her phenomenal video content online. So she's become a patient ambassador for Health Beacon.
Woohoo.
Hi, Maggie. Hi, Maggie.
Hi,
Good
how are
morning.
you?
Good, good, good. Good morning. Good morning.
Good
Happy
morning.
happy belated St. Patrick's Day.
Thank you. You as well. I hope you got to celebrate and have a good time.
Right, right. That's why Eugene's going to carry this interview.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I kind of bailed on the team last night a bit. So apologies for that. Jim, Laura, Dr. Dave, I don't know who else was there, Kendall, a few others.
Right.
But good to meet you, Maggie. I've heard lots of good stuff about you already from Jim. And please.
Well, yeah, no. So Maggie, so this this was our attempt just to introduce myself. So I think we know each other kind of via emails and through Lily, and I'm just so delighted that you're going to be working with Health Beacon, and I've just blown away by your video content describing everything you're up to and your own background. So I have to say, more than excited to listen to your story. But the shot of digital health is it was a podcast that we put together largely just for Eugene's mental health. So it was a podcast we put together. Kidding, my mental health, Eugene.
Yeah, it's both of us.
So this is like so I know you're just meeting me for the first time. You're just meeting Eugene, so we'll introduce ourselves properly. But maybe for our millions of viewers, as we say, if you could introduce yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah. So my name is Maggie. And a long time ago, when I was a teenager, I found myself with severe Crohn's disease and a new ileostomy bag. And while I knew other people at school that had Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis, the related disease, I was by far the most severe case. So I felt very alone, the only one, going through multiple surgeries and now living with an ostomy bag. And all you hear, at least at the time, was that, you had to be 65 or older to have an ostomy, which is absolutely not the case, but that's how it felt. So I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to find people that were, close in age that had similar experiences. I had always been interested in making videos, YouTube. So I decided, let me just, throw my story out there and see what happens. And I found that there were quite a few other people like myself. So that was a little over 12 years ago. The channel's been going for 12 years, and I've
Wow.
just continued to share on the channel my experiences, as well as more education-based videos. I figured once I got to college, I was thinking, if I want to talk about some of these procedures that I do on myself with a little bit more knowledge, maybe I should go to nursing school and actually get some of that education. So I did that, and I kind of shared through that whole journey, that point in my life. So here I am, almost 29 and still sharing YouTube videos. So
I mean, truly amazing. And I don't want to take you all the way back from, when you were diagnosed, but what if you do, I mean, I'm sure you do remember, like, what was the feelings you were going through, and what, and how long did it take you to actually share your story out there, right? Because it's, a lot of people think of it as very private and it kind of working through in your head. So just curious.
yeah. I mean, when I was diagnosed, I was 11. So I didn't really understand what Crohn's disease meant. All I knew is that I felt sick. And I remember going to my GI doctor for the first time and asking them, not really expecting the answer yes. I remember asking, do you think I'm going to get surgery? Just kind of like joking to her, and she seriously said, yes, I do believe that you will have surgery at some point. So it was just this kind of sudden, overwhelming, oh my gosh, I think my life is about to flip upside down. And I remember when I was going through the diagnosis and going through the early medications, being on steroids, your face tends to swell up. So I had a lot of friends asking me what was going on. And my dad actually advised me, you better not tell too many people, because you don't know how they're going to react to it. You don't know if they're going to make fun of you or what's going to happen. And of course, me being his daughter, I completely ignored that advice, got online and started to share my story. But yeah, it's, I mean, once I found the community of just overwhelming amount of people, it just felt like, okay, I'm not alone in this. I have other people that I can bounce ideas off of, maybe think of solutions for some of the issues I'm experiencing. So yeah, but the first experience I had was definitely, okay, life's going to be a little bit different for me.
Wow. And then your father saying, kind of, obviously trying to protect you, but telling you, hey, don't share it. And then, because I think about, like you say, my generation, and there wasn't even that option. Maybe there wasn't that social media, and that you couldn't easily share video content, and it's something I'm like so amazed by, just the sheer level of people that are sharing their story of what we would have described as very personal healthcare experiences. And like what do you think about that when you see all these other channels and other things, and how do you interact with those people?
I mean, it's incredible the amount of people that are sharing, and I actually think that there should be more. I'm always hoping and encouraging that when others come to me saying, hey, do you think I should start a YouTube channel? Yes, because I'm only sharing my experience, and other YouTube ostomy or whoever, whatever they got going on, they're only sharing their experience. And there are so many things that unfortunately can happen with Crohn's disease, chronic illness. But it just really is insane how it blew up over the last 10 years. I remember sitting in the hospital right after surgery. My dad and I were searching online for how to make an ostomy bag stop leaking, because the nurses didn't know what to do with me. It just kept leaking. Wow. And I remember us finding exactly one forum on a website that most definitely would give you a computer virus today. But one forum where a mom was sharing her experiences with her son and how they got the bag to stop leaking. There was nobody on YouTube, very little online about it. And then as time went on, it really did explode. I mean, there's hundreds, if not thousands, of people online sharing it. So I'm thrilled about that, because even with me sharing online for so long, I use other people's videos, other people's content to help myself,
Yeah.
get through some of the stuff I experienced.
It's interesting, just as you were talking, and I guess in the last decade plus, so Jim and I have been connected to this Health 2.0. It started as a movement. Matthew Holt and Indus Subai, who started it. That was my first introduction into really patient communities, really at the time, and the power of them, right? Just to kind of mention, Gilles Freeman started acor.org for cancer patients, and they were literally saving each other's lives, right? Because to your point, your common nurses didn't know what to do. There's so many experiences that every individual has, and the disease, while it's defined, does not define how it impacts you as an individual, right? I think it's interesting, Jim's question around kind of the new novel ways of just putting things out there. And since this is a shot of digital health therapy, I think you were sort of born, digitally savvy to begin with, probably, right? Already. But maybe your experience, yes, there's the community and ability to find the community, but I know there's companies like Mahana Therapeutics, Bold Health, many others that are developing, CBTs, cognitive behavioral therapies, and other things. Was that something you were also looking into, or there were just some basics that you needed to get done, like the bag, right? Like, et cetera. So I'm curious your reaction on digital outside of just social media and YouTube.
I mean, my focus definitely was caring for my ostomy, because when you're in that moment of your bag's not sticking to you, that's your focus. So I will say I had limited thoughts about going beyond that.
Yeah. And could Maggie, if it's okay, could you describe a little bit? So you went into nursing, right? And then you actually were are you clinically practicing today?
I'm no longer, but I did work in bedside for a number of years, and then I did some telehealth work as well.
Okay. And what was it like kind of maybe just some thoughts about that choice to go into nursing and how you found it, and any perspective on that would be lovely.
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually wound up working, my first hospital job was on the floor in the hospital that I received my care. Wow. So it was a little bit of circle of life going back there, a little, it was neat to be back, but it was also a little traumatizing. But I really wanted to be able to connect with patients that were in similar situations as myself. And early on in my job, I was able to do that. I connected with patients that were starting tube feeding for the first time, and that was something I had done at that age. Connecting with newly diagnosed Crohn's patients and sharing a little bit of my long-term experience with it. But as time went on, nursing, I think probably we've all heard of it. It's a tough job, and right. It's definitely getting harder for nurses with the amount of patients coming through and short staffing issues. And I definitely experienced that. I actually left the job before the world changed 2 years ago.
Okay.
Okay. So I can only imagine what it's like now, but it was like that before. And as a chronic illness patient, it's hard. Like, I didn't want to admit it, but there were moments that I definitely struggled and I was sick. So I did wind up leaving because of that. But yeah, that's kind of how I got into that.
We just read a stat that I think it seems like almost like a third of nurses, at least in US, are either thinking of or have been resigning already, right? And moving on. So like this great reshuffling as it's been now sort of deemed, right? So it's, and I think part of that, we're hearing that from a kind of health coaching perspective, lots of nurses are getting their health coaching degrees, or not degrees, but certifications and accreditations to leave the system to become actually to help people outside of the healthcare system a bit. But, I think part of that, as we're talking about some digital health, right? The promise of kind of EMRs, EHRs, and many other tools within the hospital systems, the number one thing we're hearing is that nurses are so overburdened with all the administrative technology input work, So, but I'll pause here. You've had the live experience, so curious on that.
Yes. That was the most difficult part, was I wanted to connect with patients, but the amount of time I spent documenting, and obviously that's important to cover yourself should anything happen. But the amount of time spent on that was just overwhelming, and it really took away from what you could give to the patients, which was unfortunate. And I found that very difficult, and I know a lot of nurses find that difficult. And that's just one of the factors, I think, of why the field is struggling right now.
Yeah, and I always think with these things, I mean, but fair dues to you for, like what a fantastic qualification. One of my great heroes in life is my little sister, and she went back to school and became a nurse, out of the Boston area. And she describes the sheer physical. She worked on a lot of ER, in a lot of environments, and now she's doing IV administration kind of work. But the sheer toll and the pace, that I could you could see over the years, and in the real, like the kind of the vocation and the nature of it. But then I find when I live in Ireland, even though I'm in San Antonio, Texas, as we do this call right now, but the differences in when I go to the US, the administrative aspect of the job, the presence of the financial aspect of it, I find that almost a little overpowering, actually, so when I go in and interact with the US healthcare system administratively. So not really a question, just commenting.
Yeah.
Jim, your voice sounds great. So I don't know how much singing you've done last night, but kudos still. It's coming through great. Check, mic check.
Mic check. It didn't come through.
Maggie, just a question for you, right? Because I think kind of the buzzword a bit of influencer is out there, right? What do you think about it as far as kind of being called that to a certain extent versus, just to your point, you had and continue having, struggle and putting your message out and building that community and wanting to help the patients. So just maybe kind of from your perspective, this new, again, I put in quotes, influencer world, your thoughts, comments, challenges around it.
I don't love the term influencer, just because I feel like, I don't know, like that's an Instagram model or something, somebody selling clothing. The way that I've looked at my experience on YouTube, I recognize people's names and I chat with them over and over again, and I feel as though they're friends, even though I haven't met many of them in person. So when I hear influencer, I don't feel like that at all. And I feel like that's kind of dangerous when you get into the health space, because when somebody's an influencer and they're trying to sell a t-shirt, that's one thing, but you want to make sure that what you're sharing is going to not impact a patient negatively. So that's like where I find it dangerous. And I, as a nurse, kind of know the boundaries of what you can say to patients online, in what roles that you're able to play if you're a healthcare professional or if you're not. And I just feel like it's a dangerous line. Those are kind of my thoughts on that, but I don't think it's necessarily
advocate.
I like the term advocate. So, yes, that's okay. Yeah, that is more how I feel about myself personally, and other others with chronic illness online sharing.
And just maybe more around sort of the community aspect of it, right? Because I think we're as human beings, we're tribal, right? Just as it's in our DNA. Maybe you can dive a little bit deeper into kind of that community building and being that advocate and very public and open. What are some of the things that you're getting? How is that community forming, right? And is it sort of around you yourself as an advocate? Is it joining others? And maybe kind of talk through your path through this.
Yeah, I mean, a few years ago, I got very active in the community, the chronic illness community as a whole. And I did things like Healthy Voices and some other conferences, and they were wonderful. And then, of course, the world changed. So everything got flipped upside down. And the way, honestly, that it's very simple. The way that I find community now is when I share my YouTube videos, there is an option to do a premiere where you can have a live chat as your video premieres. And I have found that the conversations that I have with other patients, and they might not even necessarily be patients, some of them are just people interested in what I have going on medically and what I have going on in life. But I connect a lot with people through that. And hopefully I will be brave enough to live stream one day. That I'm working towards it, but I feel like that would be a really great way to connect with people as well.
So, Jim and I always talked about doing this live also. I'm just always concerned that Jim is not going to be on time. So no.
Easy.
No. Actually, I think there was only in the 2 years that we've been doing this, roughly, I think there was only one time that you were, 4 minutes late or something like that. Yeah, in a board meeting. Coming out. Yeah, so it's excusable. But it's actually it's interesting. I don't know if you warned Maggie on the fact that this show was our escape from C19. Yeah, in the beginning, we were not even allowed to say those words. And I actually loved how you have not named this, and you said the world has changed twice. So I don't know if Jim warned you that you're not supposed to say, these words beforehand.
I'm aware of how YouTube works. So I avoid saying it. That's why.
Right. And what's when you think about, have you interacted, with, I guess, our mutual colleague, Lily Stairs much? So Lily was on the podcast, and
that's right.
We're so inspired by Lily. But did you get a chance to interact with her much? And what do you, so she's kind of she started a consultancy called Patient Authenticity. And what's your perspective on her, if you have?
Oh, I have known Lily for a few years now. I've worked with her a couple of times. And I think that she is just fabulous. I think one thing that I love about people, or a quality I love about people, is organized, and she is very organized.
Okay.
And very clear on things, and that you just need that. You need that in this kind of role, and she is just amazing with that. And even yesterday, as we were working on the launch, she was keeping me up to date on everything, like minutely. So yeah, she's just awesome, and I'm glad that you are working with her.
Right. So listen. So I think there was I'd love to I don't know, Eugene, if you want to jump right into this right away, but one of the questions that we love to ask is on this podcast, and this is there's a lot of, you seem like you have entrepreneurial tendencies, in terms of creating this channel. But if you were to look back at your younger self, right, and you were to reflect on that and say you had someone that was going to go do a digital health technology startup that was going to bring the patient voice to the top of the funnel, and what's the one piece of advice that you would reflect and you would give to that younger Maggie about starting off in a venture of building a social media channel and thinking about that?
Oh gosh, put me on the spot here.
Number one, don't listen to your father in that case.
Well, the funny thing is he's my biggest fan now. He's always calling me and telling me about my videos and how he watched them. So he's very proud of it. But I think, going off of ignoring your dad is just being louder. Like, don't be afraid to tell your story. There are certain aspects of it that are considered taboo and embarrassing. And I have learned that, there's at least one other patient out there that is searching for this information and they can't find it. If you can be that source of information, you can literally change their life, because I have experienced that myself with other advocates sharing information that I felt maybe people thought, too embarrassing to share about, but somebody did. And it was like that moment of, thank goodness I'm not alone, and here's some solutions. So just be very loud and don't be afraid to be loud.
Awesome.
Amazing.
And if you were, sorry, Eugene, I'm going to go one more. And if you were to if you were to look kind of say 5 years out, like what's in store for Maggie as you think about this? And do you think that way? Do you plan this out of where you're going to go?
I have learned that I don't even know a year from now what life is going to look like, because it changes so much and so fast. And no matter what you do, it feels like you can't control it. So I don't know where I'll be in 5 years, but I do know that I have at least shared on YouTube for 12, and that's probably the most consistent thing that I've done in my life. So my bet is I'll probably still be sharing. I'll still be making videos. My hope is that I can keep working in the health field in some form. And I know some may not consider talking on YouTube about this as a health career, but I kind of look at it that way because I realize how important the patient voice is. So I hope that at least in some aspect, I'm still doing this because I really enjoy it. I really enjoy connecting with patients. I enjoy working with companies. I love all of that. So that's my hope.
Amazing.
That's
well,
unbelievable.
Thanks for hopping on. It was really great pleasure to get to know you. And, for all the millions of listeners and viewers, thank you for tuning in, and hit subscribe, pass it on, and let the patient voices be heard.
And I just have to say, Maggie, the ripple already, just even from like the last day that you've had. So, we have at Health Beacon, we have a pretty big platform of how we communicate with different people around the world. And, the ripple of your voice is already going through the ranks of lots of people inside there. So just super appreciative of that, and in a good way, in an excellent way. And so thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much for having me on. This has been incredible.
Thank you.